All right. Hello, everybody. Doing a just quick tutorial on how I use distress oxides and inks to add color to some paper, which then I used to do some die cuts, which I thought came out pretty cool. So I'm using some really nice handmade paper that I happen to have. But this technique that I'm going to teach you can use on any paper. I've just got a plain index card. You could use it on, here's dictionary paper, music paper. You can use it on any paper you want. Any paper you want. So I'm going to start with using some of this paper here. And to do this, all you need is something that can get wet. I like to use these divider sheets, like they're binder dividers. I don't know what you would call it. Get it in the office section. You put them in your binders to separate out. I find these work the best, but anything kind of plasticky will work. You need paper. You need a water spray bottle. You do not need a fancy schmancy one like this. I just couldn't find my cheap Dollar Tree one. I don't know what happened to it. So I stole that from my daughter. And then you'll need oxides, distress oxides, or distress inks. I find the oxides work better for this, but the inks will work. I did not remember the exact difference between oxides and inks. I should have looked it up, but you can look it up. I do know the oxide will actually have a chemical reaction that happens when you add water to it. Which it causes this oxidation, which is really hard to show on screen. Right here you can see it's almost whitish color. That's the oxidation that's happened right there. That will not happen with the inks. I believe oxides also have more they're a pigment. I think that's what it is. So what that means is the oxide will show up much better on a dark colored paper. So here I had a pretty dark colored green paper, but I used this aged mahogany oxide on it, and it just it sits right on top of this green paper, and you can see the color fabulously. It doesn't like soak into the paper or get diluted by it. So that's my quick version of what's the difference between inks and oxides, but there's probably a much better explanation and maybe a more correct one. You can look that up. Alright, so what I usually do is I decide what colors I want to use, and since I'm using this paper here, and the journal I'm currently working on is using these three colors, kind of using this definitely greens, using this maroony color, and then, well, I always use brown. So I've got peeled paint, aged mahogany, and walnut stain are the three that I'm going to use. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off, and I'm just going to put a chunk of ink right here on the plastic. And be liberal, be generous, don't just stick a lot on there. It's okay. You may not use it all, but you'll have a much better result. Okay, and now we need to get it wet. I need to be careful because this sprayer kind of goes everywhere. There we go. Okay, so I've gotten them wet. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my paper. I like the dab method, which essentially, I'm going to start with the green because it's so bright. I'm going to put my paper kind of where I want the color to be, and I'm going to dab it down into the green. And see, I got green on my paper. And I'm just going to kind of go all around my paper, okay? And I accidentally got into some of the maroon. I don't care because it's going to be going on there anyways. So in fact I might just go in there right now and dab some of the maroon, maybe a little brown in there. Okay, and so I'm just literally dabbing the color where I want it to go on. And you don't have to be super specific, you can. And as you start getting less color on here, now I'm going to do kind of the swish method. I'm going to put it on there and just kind of swish it around a bit because it's not as wet. I've used a lot of it up already. There we go. I get some of this brown on here. just kind of looking to see if there's a spot I think needs a little more color on it. And there we go. Ta-da! And as it sits, it's going to oxidize. It's already kind of started here. I don't know if you could see. My favorite for oxidation is the peeled paint. This green one, I believe it just does such a, I love the color that happens on it. So I'm going to set that aside to dry. Now before I move on, I've, my paper's kind of wet. I got remnants of ink. You could just take a paper towel and wipe it down. What I like to do is just have a spare piece, and I'm just going to wipe it up. Use it like a paper towel, okay? Just wipe it up. There we go. And the more I use it, well, it's going to eventually get more and more color on there. Why waste the ink? I'm not going to waste the ink. I don't want to do that. So, okay, so that was one version. So what I do now, what if we had just a plain white card? So this, I already had a base color, right? So I didn't really have to add that much more color onto it. Here, I'm starting off plain white. And I thought I could play with some pinks. And I also thought I've got two different, I got an oxide and an ink, and they're two different colors of pink. I've got Spun Sugar and Victorian Velvet, but I thought we'd kind of play with the difference between oxide and ink here. So I thought I'd play with these colors, kind of a different color range here. So let's do a pink oxide first, and I'm actually going to put the ink right next to it. And I think you can see there's a difference even how it's applied onto the paper. See how the oxide, so much vibrant, whereas the ink, not as much. It's there, it's got color. You'll see when I get it onto the paper. There we go. So first I'm going to dab here. There we go. And then we'll go do the oxide. There we go. Alright, so I do know the Spun Sugar is a much lighter color, so what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to get the ink. And yeah, my colors are mixing and I don't care. Don't really care. I'm trying to kind of cover this completely, mostly with color. Okay, there we go. And they're kind of blending all together there. So I'm going to set this aside for a minute. Actually, what I want to do is see if I can see what happened if I got some of that oxide on there. Okay, I'm going to clean this up. I'm just using another index card. Clean it up. Now, if I was like fancy and had all the tools, I'd have a blow dryer or a heat gun or something, and I would dry that up real fast, but I don't. So I'm just gonna see. Not even as usable right there. Let's come back to this. Got a little hair or something in it right there. This is actually really cool looking already, and I almost don't want to add too much more to it, but I'm gonna. Why not? So let's add a little purple. I don't need a ton of purple, so we're just gonna put just a little. Give it a spritz. You can get your fingers in there too. No reason not to. There we go. Looking good. Wipe up my table. There we go. And then I'm going to add just a touch of brown. And hopefully this doesn't mess it up. I'm going to add just a little bit. I don't know, this might mess it up. Let's just see. Add it just, oh yeah, nope. It just added another layer of color, another dimension. There we go. Kind of like that. I almost like, got a little bit of some white still left here, untouched. And there we go. wipe up what I've got left. There we go. And I end up with 2 pieces right there. Get a nice up close view of them. And that's how you do it. And once these dry, well, you could do what you want with them. For me, I will probably run this one through the die cut machine, make some more die cuts possibly. This, you know, I can stick this with another one. It could become a tag. You could use it for whatever you want. You could run this through the die cut machine. So there you have it. Use your oxides. Use your inks. Much more than just doing edges of things. You could do a lot of really, really fun things with them. So, all right. Hope you enjoyed that.